Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 10th CeMM S.M.A.R.T lecture given by Professor Orly Goldwasser. It is a tremendous pleasure to host Professor Goldwasser. I can tell you from the start that there are few people in the room. The ones that are in the room now have all been vaccinated at least 3 weeks ago and have been tested freshly. So do not worry, we are keeping all the necessary measures. As the Center for Molecular Medicine, we are fully aware of the dangers associated with this virus. In fact, as you know, we probably know, we are the place that is providing most of the full-length sequences of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and we are very much interested in the interplay between the virus and the immune system. But today, I would like to introduce you very briefly to our concept of S.M.A.R.T lecture. First, very briefly, no? Thank you, about the title of the talk, but we will come back to this in a minute. This is the 10th S.M.A.R.T lectures. What are S.M.A.R.T lectures? S.M.A.R.T lectures are there to broaden the horizon of a group of scientists and medical doctors that are dedicated to molecular medicine. In the center, we are physically in the medical university campus at the Allgemeine Krankenhaus in Vienna, and we belong to the Austrian Academy of Sciences. And what we do is we try to understand the mechanisms of diseases in order to identify new potential diagnostic or therapeutic opportunities. But inventions and ideas come at the fringes of areas, and we would like to have our students and our young faculty and our postdoctoral fellows well aware of fruitful and fertilizing concepts that come from other disciplines and other areas. In a scholarly fashion, we are all linked. And I think that tonight's or this evening's talk by Orly Goldwasser will show us how true interdisciplinary kind of research occurs. So the S.M.A.R.T lecture was born in order to widen our horizons, and I hope they will also widen your horizons tonight. Thank you for being with us. We are sorry about these COVID measures, but at the same time are fully aware that it is because of COVID that we may be reaching to more people than we usually do. Very briefly, it started some years ago. We had a very interesting group of people. Norbert Bischofberger was the person that co-invented some of the therapies for HIV. Fabiola Giannotti, the first woman director of CERN, the big Physics Institute in Geneva. She gave a splendid lecture on the Higgs boson. Then we had Gian Domenico Borazio from Lausanne giving a talk about the palliative medicine opportunity and problems, very brilliant. Then we had the chairman of the board of Nestlé, Peter Brabeck-Letmathe. I remember the very interesting discussion with students. We had Albert Laszlo-Barabashi, who is the master of the concept of networks in all walks of life. Very, very interesting. We had Mathieu Ossendriver, who had, as a mathematician and archaeologist, identified a Babylonian piece of clay on which there was calculation of astronomy that proved that certain kind of calculus was actually occurring long before we thought it was, let's say, invented in the Middle Ages BCE. We had Hermann Hauser speak about what artificial intelligence and machine learning will do for industry and humanity. We had Jan Gehl, who gave a very, very interesting talk about how to make livable cities in the 21st century, a person that has designed a lot of cities. And last but not least, we had Wolfgang Lutz, who gave us an outlook on the demographic development of the future. But it is with great joy that I am now giving a very, very brief introduction to somebody that will deserve a much longer introduction, but you will hear when she speaks that every word that I say is best spent listening to her, or every minute that I say. So Orly Goldwasser is a professor at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, but she is also a honorary professor at the University of Göttingen. Her laboratory is called the Archaeology of the Mind Lab, the Archaeology of the Mind Lab. Already this title tells you a lot about the importance and the depth that we have in trying to understand where our cognitive capability comes from in time and in physiology, which I think is one of the most interesting questions one can have. She's been around the world in many places. She's been visiting professor in Harvard and many others. And what really makes her special is that she is not only an archaeologist, not only an Egyptologist, but she's a person that is truly interested in all, if you want, the cultural, physiological, cognitive process of understanding, inventing languages and understanding languages. And she's famous all over the world for having been advocating and proposing what will be the main theme of tonight, which is how humanity invented the alphabet. And I think that nobody better than her has been putting up this story, and she has received a lot of attention and prizes and recognition because of this. And I won't take my time to go, your time to go through, because you can find them, including on the accompanying documentation all over the internet. But what is important is that she is projected into the future. It's not only about what she has found, it's really to understand how does the human mind distinguish between alphabet-associated language and hieroglyph associated concepts. Do they map to the same site? Are they physiologically related? How do we perceive them? And we will hear a little bit about this because she has a lot to say. So in tradition with the past, I would like to give her a little present in recognition of the fact she's giving the 10th S.M.A.R.T lecture. And I would like you to join me in what is a virtual applause and welcoming on stage Professor Goldwasser. Please, Orly, come on stage. The tradition is that you get Evgeny Zakhatov, as you know, for already the Beatles in the band of John and Yoko have sang about this tape. And before I give you, we can put it here. For me, having Professor Goldwasser here is a little bit like a fairy tale come true. I was watching TV in November, and I heard this story that she was telling about the invention of alphabet, and I had the urge to take up contact with this person. And in my usual stalking style, while she was still speaking, I already had started writing her an email, finding her address on the internet. And for some time, you know, and I tried to say I'm not a stalker, but you know, I'm also a scholar, albeit of biology. And I not unexpectedly did not receive an answer, except that 10 days after, I got an email that says probably my answer went into the spam, and she had answered, and she had answered in real time. And when I wrote to her and she answered, she was only a few kilometers away in the center of Vienna. And the rest, maybe she will tell you. Since then, your great scholarly contribution have really illuminated our world, and thank you for being here. We look forward for your lecture.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, we start now. What makes a great invention? As I told you, I tell the reconstruction of the invention of the alphabet, but in a special way for this place. Sorry. So I'm grateful to Professor Superti-Furga for inviting me to present this, the invention of the alphabet in the celebrated CeMM Institute of the Austrian Academy of Sciences. CeMM is a hub of innovation and invention, very fitting for this presentation. I present to you today one of the greatest and lasting inventions in history that is with us even in this very moment when I read this text to you. So the invention analysis today will be what were the necessary prior resources for the invention. Giulio, why do I see things here?
This is the chat, don't worry.
Yeah, but I don't see what I want to see.
Just open the chat and put to the side that you are. But it's not on my list, so mission is.
Thank you. The audience should see that something happened here. The necessary prior resources for the invention, the evaluation of necessary prior knowledge for the invention. Do you have to know something to invent something like that? And at the end, I will talk about the marketing problems of the this invention. Okay, let's hope that now. Sorry, our alphabet was invented only once, and all alphabetic scripts of all languages of the world originated from this single invention. It's always written, but why once? Let's go to the word alphabet that each of you know and you hear it all the time. The answer actually hides in the name. Let's see how. Send this picture of a bull.
Continue.
No, you will not.
Yes, yes, I will.
No,
Or you
Giulio,
keep it then.
I keep.
There are people saying that you don't.
Okay.
Read the chat.
Okay. Look on this now. You saw these two pictures here. The word alphabet can be broken into two pictures, alpha and bet or beta. This already reminds you of the names of the Greek letters. Now have a look what is hiding here. What is actually hiding here is a direct leap between the letters that we know today. The A or the alpha, it's the same. And the picture of the oldest alphabet letter, which I will try to do it. I'm sorry, we wanted you to see the cursor and it's not. Why does it? Oh. You see this bull here? Yeah, this is the bull, and this is your letter A at the beginning. So you still have the Greek name alpha. What does it mean? It means in ancient Semitic languages something like a bull, and this means that the name alpha in the word alphabet that we say is still describing the oldest letters that had the form of pictures. The same goes for the beta. Beta is in Old Semitic was a word like in Hebrew today, bait or bet, and this goes back to the old form of the letter that looks like a bait, like a closed rectangular, like a house. So actually, even in the word alphabet are hiding the two oldest forms invented by the inventors of the alphabet. And strangely enough, they look almost exactly like Egyptian hieroglyphs. So in your alphabet are slipping not only the oldest letter invented in the form of pictures, but also Egyptian hieroglyphs. I wanted to show you something else here before we leave, because this is a very meaningful letter. You see here the letter M. This is where you see maybe the most straightforward connection to the old invented letter. You see here it was in Hebrew or Old Semitic language, something like Maim, Mem, and then you have it in Greek already very close. And the form of the water is actually kept in the capital M that we are writing today. The same is with the Ein, with the I, which is kept with the O, the head, the Ro. You see it here. This was the head, the ancient head. So what you see here is this direct movement between our letters and by the names. Also, Hebrew keeps very well all the names. In Hebrew, it's modern Hebrew. This is Kaf, the Kappa. So you see the direct connection between what you write every day in your text to the old invented forms of the most ancient alphabet. Now, what goes on? Why do we see here hieroglyphs and letters that look like hieroglyphs? This is the story, at least as I see it. Here is the place we're talking about in the midst of the Sinai desert, very high on the mountains, very impressive place called Superti-Furga. And if you go there, it's a little bit of like a Fata Morgana. You suddenly reach a plateau, and on this plateau, there is ancient Egyptian temple with a lot of stelae still standing and many small hieroglyphs everywhere. You see here a close-up. Here you see the sacred cave, which was the center of the temple. And this is how these inscriptions look like. And in your mind's eyes, you should see them colored. Everything was colored. So imagine them coming up in this desert and suddenly finding oneself in such a place. What was the temple there for? There are turquoise mines around this temple, and it was built so the work in the turquoise mine will be successful. You have to have for that the help of the gods. This is a picture of one of the mines. What do you have in these mines? This semi-beautiful, semi-precious stone, turquoise. The pharaohs liked it very much. And here you see some end results from the turquoise pharaonic royal jewelry. Now, the temple was built by the Egyptian pharaohs during the 19th century BCE, over 3,800 years ago. It was used in intervals for a few hundred years. It was constantly enlarged and changed. The official raison d'etre of the temple was to conduct rituals that would please the goddess of turquoise, Hathor, that was in charge of the semi-precious stone in the Egyptian pantheon. We know that most of the participants in the expeditions to Superti-Furga were Egyptians. The many hieroglyphic inscriptions that were left by them in the temple and around the temple and by their mines tell us their names, positions, and activities. We know of treasury officials, administrators, translators, physicians, and scorpions. Charmers, my favorite guys. What is he doing now? Verifying something.
Don't worry.
We also know that in the 19th century BCE, there were Canaanites in the different functions on the mountain. Scouts, soldiers, donkey riders, miners, most of these people do not appear in the Egyptian inscriptions. They are actually invisible. Such are the Canaanite miners of the 19th century. They are our heroes of today. For the people outside our field, reminder, Canaan and Canaanites, people that came from the Levant. The word usually refers to people from Israel, Palestine, and Lebanon. They spoke a Semitic language, not Egyptian, the mother language of both Hebrew and Arabic languages of today. Just that you know how Baalat looks like, how beautiful she was. She's the Egyptian goddess Hathor and the goddess of the Canaanite called Baalat. This is the goddess that all the efforts were directed to her, to the goddess Hathor, the goddess of turquoise, that she will give them blessing, success, and that they will go home healthy. Another picture of her here. You want to put it here in the title?
Okay, you just stay there.
Sorry. Now, the whole story of this strange writing in pictures in alphabet being picture writing, it was known always that the Egyptians wrote in pictorial script. But since when is alphabet pictures? The whole story was not known until 1904, more than 100 years from now, when the famous English Egyptologist Sir Flinders Petrie and his wife went to a season of excavation in this Egyptian temple in Sinai. Hilda Petrie, his wife, she was also an Egyptologist. She stepped on something. She took up this something and looked upon it and saw these ugly signs, but gave it to Petrie. This is really ugly, especially in Egyptian terminology. You see some signs here, but it's a hand, but very unimpressive. Not only did she find these inscriptions falling from the walls of the mines where she was working, Petrie was working in the temple, she was working by the mines, and she found she found the inscriptions by the mines. We shall see that later some inscriptions were found in the mines themselves, on the walls. And I brought this inscription to you because you see here things that you already know. You see the water, and you see, oh, it's somehow the picture is cut. Below I have my bull with the horns, and the picture is a little cut. Okay, force majeure. This we saw. I wanted to remind you that the bull and the water are candidates here. You shall see them later again. An Egyptian inscription, a typical Egyptian inscriptions looks, this is not a very special one, but they look like this, more or less. Many pictures. This was all colored probably, and one sign above the other. We should see now another example. Here for you, it's easier to look at. This is an hieroglyphic inscriptions the Egyptian wrote on the walls, on the rocks by the mines. It's an Egyptian inscription in Egyptian hieroglyphs. And you see here, there are many, many pictures. I counted here 61 exemplars, even in these very small inscriptions. And I want you to look on one hieroglyph here. He doesn't always do what I want, but here's the option for you to see you see here a house, something like a house with an opening, another house with an opening. There are many other signs, many other houses like this here. You see also squares. Squares are also actually stools to sit on, and they have a certain sound that is usually used. Okay. Now, this is a drawing already of the ugly finds of Hilda Petri. I think you can already see with your eye, even though you know so very little and see it for the first time, actually most of you, that it's very different. Why they're very different? Very few signs. The lines are not crowded, and they are repetitive. You don't have a really a nice group here. They constantly repeat. And do you see here friends that you already know? You see the bull, you see the square, you see the head, you see the snakes there. The water repeats. Also here, the same thing, rather repetitive. Here is the bull again. And is this a beautiful inscription? Really not. They are rather horrible looking. The letters are disorganized in a terrible way, but we can find our friends here. I see the bull, I see the square, I see the eye, I see the tav, and here I see it again. Snakes, everything is repeating constantly. Again, a beautiful bull, the ox goad, which is a lambda, a la, and the water, which is ma. More than 30 ugly inscriptions were found mainly around and in the mines. This is a very important point. They are already they are in the area of the mine, only in the mine. 4 little finds were found in the temple, and the signs are imitating the Egyptian hieroglyph. But why are they in alphabet? The great genius Petri already realized that. He said, this is a very small inventory. I don't have the hundreds of signs. We are dealing with a different system. And this is, you see, the scientific point. And then they are used repetitively. The repetitions, which we couldn't find in the Egyptian inventory of signs on a stela. But there he stopped. In 1906, he stopped. He couldn't decipher it. To remind you how crazy an Egyptian inscription looks, this is hieroglyphs. You see that everything is crowded, one is above, no pattern, and here there are 111 signs in the inventory. Okay, but this is not enough to say about the sorrows that the Egyptian may bring you. The Egyptian hieroglyphs are an amazing system, but from other reasons. But not from this point of view. It uses 700 signs commonly. And you see here what is the main problem of the hieroglyphs. Each image in the hieroglyphs, each picture, your brain has to make a trip through 3 options of reading. First of all, if you see a duck, you can read it as a duck. This is the real duck. and you can read it in Egyptian, it will be so, and it has a sound and a pictorial meaning. So it's like picture writing, what you think about picture writing. But this is not all. When you see a duck, it can also be a phonogram. It is a phonogram, which means you look on the duck, you read the saw, but you may, so it will be good for writing also sun, S-O-N. It's almost the same word. And I will write the abstract idea of sun with the duck. But then you have to forget of the gaga duck, okay? It's the sound only. And then your brain has the third challenge. There's another option to use the duck. The duck could be a classifier, which means that it helps you to read other words. So after let's say you wrote as a logogram the falcon, and you see that it's a falcon, you may draw or write a duck after the falcon, telling you, dear friends, this falcon is a bird. The duck was the prototypical bird in Egypt because of the Nile and the channels and the water and so on. So the brain has 3 steps to go in the analysis. Now, we had to wait until 10 years, it's not a lot if you think about it, to another English gentleman, great Egyptologist, Sir Alan Gardiner, and he deciphered the alphabetic script through a find which I call the Rosetta Stone of the alphabet. Usually he is just called the small sphinx. He is now in the British Museum. Most of the time he is not considered even important enough to be represented in the exhibitions. He lies down somewhere on the shelves. And this was a very touching moment for me when we made the BBC documentary. I was supposed to present him to the audience, and somebody came in like from the supermarket with a basket with this inside. And this is the whole story of the alphabets. It's tiny, it's ugly, it's not any top Egyptian anything art. And for me, if I had to choose one find in the world from all the riches of Egypt, I would take him. Because probably the inventors of the alphabet held him in the hand, and he was actually a witness, probably maybe, to the invention or to the process. And then he enabled Gardiner to decipher this riddle and to create a new history to the alphabet. So for me, he's better than all the gold of Egypt. I'm sorry, but I'm too sentimental maybe, but it's like that. Here is a close-up of this piece, and you see why I call it the Rosetta Stone. Here you see an Egyptian inscription, and below you see already the signs that you know, the water, the bull, this man with which is the E in our alphabet. You see again the house, the I, and the lambda, which is broken here. It has also inscriptions here on the other side. Again, you see the repetitive pattern. And let's see what Gardiner does with this. Gardiner got the ingenious idea that here we are in front of a acrophonic way of reading, which means we use pictures, but we use them in a different way than the Egyptians. We look on a picture on the left. It's square, it looks like a house. I say the word house, I don't know exactly, this is ancient Semitic language, just let's say it was bet or something like that. Bet, bite. And what I have to do is to take only the first sound, the B. Okay, I took the B and now forget about everything. It's a house, not a house, not interesting anymore. Okay, go on. Another image. What do I see in the image? The eye. I in this ancient Semitic language was something like today, I have the I always take the first sound, throw the others, and I forget it's an I. I should not remember, I should not treat it as an I anymore. This is the whole thing. Here you have what is the lambda, which is probably a kind of a tool of for oxes to drive them by shepherds or something like that. La, and then the tav, the sign. So instead of 3 semiotic options for reading each icon in Egyptian, sound for picture logogram, or sound information only, or which is a phonogram, or silent classifier, there is now a single semiotic road, a single reading rule for all signs that I meet. If I'm in the alphabet, I have only one rule. Identify the picture, name it in Canaanite, take out only the first sound, discard the picture, okay? The invention creates a direct line between sound and sign. This is the boom, okay? And here we see it again. Now, this Gardiner did in 1916, and the question is, why am I here? And I have my small contribution to this whole business in 2 aspects, with defining really semiotically how it happened, because I'm an Egyptologist and you will see it immediately, and who invented it. It will come rolling out, one out of the other. There is no agreement where was the alphabet invented and when. I suggested a reconstruction of the invention process in Sinai. Being an Egyptologist specializing in hieroglyphs, I was able to suggest the exact hieroglyphic models in the Sinai repertoire of Egyptian hieroglyphs that could have served for model for the inventors. Because if we see that these people are sitting in Sinai and writing things that look like hieroglyphs, so they took it from the hieroglyphs that they saw around them. This is only logical. The identification of the model led to a safe dating of the invention in the 19th century BCE. And this analysis also led to the identification of the inventors, that this is the most important thing in my opinion, and to the really conclusion that they were illiterate. And I can tell you already now that this is the most disturbing. Many scholars are deeply disturbed by that result. They don't like it, and we shall see it later. So just a very short glimpse of what I have done. Not everything here was done by me. The left side was done by 2 excellent Semitic scholars of Semitic languages, Benjamin Zas from Tel Aviv and Hamilton. And here, Gordon Hamilton from the United States. And here is my part. I just put in line their collections of the new letters. And I looked for prototypes in the Egyptian steles that were standing there that could have been models for these alphabetic letters. You know already, your friends here, the bull and hey man, and the kaf, which is the kappa, and the lambda here, and of course our water, the moon. And what you see here, that when I made this plate, I finally understood what is the big issue here. They don't treat the hieroglyphs as a writing system. These are for them little pictures. And they take from the little pictures what they like. Okay, so we shall see that. It has a continuation, of course. Here you see the snakes, the nun, the line, and the ro, the head, the rosh in Canaanite. You see there are two heads here, one looking here and one looking straight on us. For them, we see that they are imitating in a very ugly way, but they are imitating the first two left ones. But then they are imitating the right one, the right head. Sorry. And this is a severe mistake in hieroglyphic Egyptians. This is another word and another meaning, and it's not a head, it's a face, and it's used very differently. So anybody that would know Egyptian would not make this mistake. And not to say about this horrible variation here of the head. And another very big mistake is mixing two snakes in the Egyptian hieroglyphic inscriptions. Sorry, these are the cobras and the vipers, two different hieroglyphs in Egyptian, forbidden for an Egyptian scribe to mix them, and they mix them freely because they're snakes. Who cares, right? We needed a picture of a snake to have the n. Okay, you don't need it later. Not important. So here are the mixed snake. What I explained to you now, that too many mistakes, not only mistakes, sometimes they decided the hieroglyphs are not such good examples and they added things from around. There is no hieroglyph like that. The kappa, that doesn't exist. So we said this is the best for us. Okay, now we go on. What a horrible mess they created with the house. This is the B, a very important letter in the early alphabet, and is Bait, but we saw it in Gardeners. And here they never ever take an Egyptian prototype. I showed you this house, very nice house with an opening. They hate that. They draw houses of their own and take squares and do other strange things. Okay. The inventors relate only to the pictorial iconic meaning of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. Also, the great Egyptologist Pascal Vernus now agrees with me completely on this issue. They are not aware and maybe not interested in the way the Egyptians record Egyptian language. They want to write to their goddess Baalat in their own language. And who were the inventors? The usual answer here would be, oh, this is such a great invention that changed the world. This must be the most educated scribes in the ancient Near East. They knew Egyptian, and they do all sorts of Egyptians. They knew hieroglyphic Egyptians and handwriting Egyptians. And of course, they were experts of Semitic languages, and then they invented the alphabet. And a professor now dead for a few years was my teacher, Professor S.M.A.R.T for Ugaritic, and he wrote against me in a blog, in a journal. The alphabet was not invented to be scratched on the wall of the cave. Okay, so you see here that science is not involved in the negation of the, or dealing with identity. It's only the feeling who can do or make such a great invention. I think I have news for them. And this is one of the examples. This is a human statue in an Egyptian forms dating to the 12th dynasty. And I call him the statue of Naamu or Nam. We don't know how to pronounce exactly the name, but this is a Canaanite name that exists until today in Semitic languages. Small thing again, also you saw how big the Sphinx was. This is 30 centimeters, not much better. You see here, this is a long inscription relatively, and this is rather amazing for such a, it starts here and goes here, and then we have the side. You can see the strange bet already here. And if you're fast, you can read here the Baalat again, the repetitive combination, endlessly repeating, because it's the name of the goddess. Le Baalat, for the goddess, for Baalat, for Baalat. But see what he writes here. Oh, I didn't remember that I did that, I'm sorry. See what he writes here. First of all, he writes his name. This is in Na-am, only consonants are involved, like we write Hebrew today, or of course, Old Hebrew is consonants only. And then you have a Rosh and Ba, which is Rav, like rabbi in English, has the meaning of chief, and then you have Na-K-Ba. This gives us this. Namu, or whatever it was pronounced. Rab, you remember my pronunciation is incorrect for sure. It's close to modern Hebrew, but it's like that, it's more understandable, and we don't know the old pronunciation. Rab, Nak, Van, minor. So this guy that left this alphabetic inscription on this little statue is a chief miner, is boss of the miners. So you see that the inscriptions, and this will repeat and repeat on the first, the inscriptions are connected very strongly to the miners. They are found by the mines, and this is a present that they allowed him to put to the goddess. This is why it's the small thing, the four small things, they got the permission, the bosses, to put things to the goddess. And I want you to see the disastrous way of writing. See? No, he wouldn't last an hour, half an hour, or 2 minutes in a professional scribal school. And he has a lot of place on this side statue, but it's not that he has space problems. Okay, so why illiterate inventors? No adherence to minimal writing rules, wrong writing directions, but it's clearly a system. Scaling, all the images are in the same size. The images are separated. This is not a painting. You see, this is how you look at an Egyptian inscription. It gives you a direct order to the brain to go what is called to where in the brain you read, it's letterbox called, because they are all in the same scale. The images are separated, steady repertoire, repetitive combination, and vivid writing. 30 inscriptions, you will see that it's unbelievable in a number. So, sorry. You remember we talked about the necessary prior resources. The inventor have prior resources. They are not inventing writing, and this is what I wanted you to see and understand. They are actually creating a new technology, and the evaluation of necessity of prior knowledge, not necessary. And here I go to a point that I would like maybe to hear your opinion. about that. The absence of prior knowledge may be the advantage that made this invention possible, pushing the inventors to rethink anew the challenge of writing outside the box of the non-script rule of the time. And this is a very interesting, I think, a question for scientists, for all. And here I brought a little text. So Faraday, as a scientist, you know, he had no formal schooling, but made a great invention. Faraday had two qualities that more than made up for the lack of education: fantastic intuition and independence and originality of mind. And again, the question that interests me, do prior knowledge and beaten tracks stand sometimes in the way of innovation? And marketing, the poor guys had no marketing. They were simple miners, struggling connections, maybe not simple miners. Maybe we can think about them as minor engineers, but in the Egyptian society, in the world of power, they were sitting on the margins. Nobody was interested in what they're doing, this riddling, or who is interested in that. And on the other hand, we have to remember also that there is no market for that. You know, if it's I invent something, there should be a market, and there's no market. The Egyptian state is absolutely.
People want to see you, not only me.
I like to talk to people.
I know, it's the wrong geometry.
Yeah,
that's how
I'm sorry, I apologize. The fact is that nobody is interested in that. Who wants it? Egyptians, first of all, it looks terrible. Secondly, they have all this big bureaucracy of scribes and so on. They have to send them home. No way. The same in Mesopotamia. Nobody is wanting this. Nobody, you cannot sell it to anybody. Okay. Now, the result was that since the invention until, let's say, the 13th century, what we know today, there's only trickle of examples. But the trickling here, there's one in Egypt, we shall see later, and we see a dagger in a very important place called Lachish, and from the 13th century on, small ostraca and so on. So many colleagues say, Orly, it's impossible. How can you say that it's invented in 1840 and then nothing happens for 400 years? You have maybe little thing here, little thing there. For me, it's so understandable. Who wants it? No market. No market, no. And no marketing. Nobody is marketing this thing. And this is why it's a disruptive innovation also. Something like a little miracle happened to me before my lecture 2 weeks ago. A mission of the Austrian Academy that was excavating in 2018 in this place called Lachish. This is 40 kilometers below Jerusalem, south of Jerusalem, found a little ostraca, and it was published 2 weeks before this lecture. And for me, it was, as I saw it, I thought, wow, this is great, because they dated it much earlier than the 13th century, 14th century, 15th century. So this would be very good. It's another very good trickle that is in the middle. Yet when I read the article, I had some problems with that. It's based only on radiocarbon. Radiocarbon is a difficult client. My friends in the Weizmann Institute explained to me complicated things. This is can move from here to there. This is not my field. But the main thing is that there are at least 3 other things that should have been considered. the pottery that was found with it. And they mention, I don't know if it's correct or not, that there is hieratic ostracon. This is Egyptian ostracon. Egyptian letter or a pot are excellent clients for dating, because you have, again, hundreds of examples and a timeline that you can put your thing on it and you know where you are. So if you have the option to do not only radiocarbon, but also the pottery and the hieratic ostraca, and last but not least, there's no really discussion with this ostracon. Already S.M.A.R.T wrote in 1987 that all this group of things of ostraca, the later alphabet, the linearized alphabet, are kind of melange of very old form and new form. Now, if you have old form and new form, what dates the new form? And there's a new form here.
Speak to me.
Oh, sorry.
Because I want to see you.
There's a new form here. Okay, so if you have old forms and new forms, there's a new form. So is the date correct? It could be worked out with a real paleography and real our work, but this was not done. So I decided to wait with this just to show you this very important find. And this is my more or less real situation in life now. We have the invention, then we have very important inscriptions, probably by the end of the Middle Kingdoms, dated like that by the finder, John Darnell. Then we have the story that started to develop in Lachish, in Canaan, with these drips and then trickles. And then you have from the 13th century on, somebody gets interested. The market starts to move. And somebody adopts it, and then it will move to Canaan, to the Phoenicians, to the Greeks, and it will conquer the world because somebody bought it finally. And this question I was asked in the Weizmann Institute when I talked to the professors in the Weizmann Institute. Could it be falsified, the theory? I said very easily. Tomorrow in a nice Egyptian palace in Egypt, in the Middle Kingdom, we will find Egyptian inscriptions, beautiful first alphabet inscriptions, and all my beautiful theory about the unprivileged miners that were able to step out of their hard situation in life and change the world will be falsified. So thank you. This is the story. It's a theory, but it's also a very moving story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I apologize to everybody for the little technical glitches. We wanted to create an atmosphere that was a little bit scholarly, but respect the COVID situation, as we explained to you. And this is why the geometry of this was not 100% certain. But we really, nevertheless, enjoyed very much your beautiful lecture. And now we can answer a few of the questions that came up. So what I will do is I will move this out of the way. Would you like a glass of water?
Maybe I have it on glass. I have it there if you allow me. Thank you very much.
So please come to this table.
Okay.
And I gather the question. You have a question. We can have a question. I will start with the first question that sort of I read somewhere.
Yeah.
That in Mesopotamia,
yeah,
there was a more ancient first alphabet? Is this, what do you think about it?
Oh, thank you for this question, because you saw today that the word alphabet and the forms of the letter that you write today are all in these imitations, let's call them, of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. What was found in Mesopotamia, and sometimes things appears in other, is two small finds with some strange signs that reminded somebody that looks like, to me, it looks like an hieroglyph, the sun, and some strange strokes. But they don't ask themselves the Petri questions. Is it a corpus of signs that are, you can identify 1 sign, 2 sign, 3? No, they are not even, each one, the whole inventar, each one is different than the other. So there's no, the inventar is undefined, very small, but undefined, and there is no repetition. So first of all, on the kind of question, is this a system? It doesn't look like a system. And then if I today want to say, Giulio, I want to say that the alphabet is not this one, it was something else. It was invented in China. Okay, your alphabet, I mean the one that you write today. I will have to come up with a bull, with a house, with the water. I cannot bring you some junk things, because your names of the letter, and especially even in modern Hebrew, are exactly the definition of the pictures that we have seen. So you cannot change it. It cannot be another picture.
Sure.
You see?
Talking about it, I mean, there were a few questions in the chat, and one has to do with the resh, the row that turned symmetrically. Why did they turn from left to right?
This is not the whole, they are dancing, they're not only turning.
Okay. They
are turning on, the whole system at the beginning was not at all stable. Again, you have to have always a scribal school and a system, and somebody that will decide from today on the head only looks there or looks like that. And then you have also, even if you have this linearization or standardization, they are still not strong enough, and they are moving, and your A is now standing on the head. I mean, your bull is standing on his horn now.
So were they reading left to right, right to left, and north to south, and south to north?
You could do anything. In Egyptian, you can read, always you go against the pictures. This is something I couldn't, because of the time, I couldn't explain to you. Also in this, sometimes they go from right to left. No rule really exists. It's new. It was just invented. So why, Giulio, if I identify it as a head, why is it so important for you if it looks here or there?
No, I understand. It's the abstraction that is important. So there is a question that was already implied a little bit in your talk by Rob Russell, who asked whether you think that it was really sort of the group of the Egyptian scribes that almost prevented this, or why did they not? You said, why did they not come up in Egypt with the alphabet?
The story of the existence of the alphabet in Egypt, or an alphabetic system in Egypt, is even more, in my opinion, weird, to say it mildly. The Egyptians had a kind of system of unilateral signs that for one consonant, within these 700 signs, but they never were interested to use it as a single system. They use it as patches. Sometimes they write foreign names or names of their dogs with alphabet. But it's a mistake, in Egyptology, the same great Alan Gardiner, it's in the reading, his textbook, the Egyptian alphabet. And since then, everybody repeats it, but the Egyptians themselves never made such a list.
Right. So
we're not, and you lose a lot, Giulio. This is something I couldn't explain to you. What you lose is a reader of Egyptian. When you move to the alphabet, you lose the images. The alphabet will murder the image, because you remember, you take
of course.
You take the image just has to give you the clue to a sound which is not the picture anymore. The bay is not the house, and the mime is not anymore the water.
But if
So
you, I mean,
kill the image.
You seem to be very much able to imagine what it was like to be, let's say, a miner. And in your mind, in your feeling, was it the lack of time? Was it the lack of instruments, ability to write easily? What created this abstraction, this short form, this ability to
do this great leap?
To do the great leap. You said it was a necessity.
It was not. I wouldn't even call it. I don't know. This is to decide how we call it today. They wanted. It was an urge.
An urge
to write to the gods. This is something that maybe we don't understand so well anymore, Giulio. The feeling, or maybe some people still understand it, the feeling that everything depends on a God.
A prayer that lasts, prayer that is there in stone.
Yeah, and you see everywhere, even if you walk in forests in Austria, sometimes you see people write their name on trees. What is it good for? I was here.
Sure.
This necessity to write, I was here, is the essence of writing. It was always the essence of writing.
So Maria Ribes-Latos asks, Hilda Petri, so the person that was involved in finding, did she understand that it represented an alphabetic script?
I don't know. We know he was a very, how should I say, he was not a great feminist. So we don't know what was her thoughts. These were not things that he would write about. He wrote, I think this is an alphabet. There's a small number of signs and patterns that repeat. And in another publication, he called it the barbarian script, just for a moment.
So there are many questions that came up in the chat, and I wonder which one we want to pick. For example, Melanie asked, in recent years, a few very similar inscriptions in Wadi El Hol in southern Egypt were found and are sometimes considered a bit older than those from the Sinai. How do you relate those inscriptions to one another? Thank you for this presentation.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. First of all, there is the famous paleography that I said was missing in the other case. When you do paleography, you see that these signs are very iconic. There are no intruders from newer times, okay? So they are very archaic in their nature, like the Sinai examples. Now, they were found and described by an excellent Egyptologist, John Darnell, and he dated them in a very meticulous work, paleography and everything, with Egyptian inscriptions telling about many people and also Canaanites. So it seems that it's a part of a story, and Egyptian you can almost always date very safely. So you are here exactly probably in the same time where the Sinai. So either they went from Sinai with the caravans to Egypt, and there may be a 10 years difference between them, but this is the history. Darnell, unlike me, also thinks that this is too big an invention to be invented by the simple people. And there should have been, theoretically, a place in Egypt where intelligent scribes should have sat together and they knew hieratic and knew Egyptian and knew everything and Canaanite languages, and they invented there a prototype of a fantastic script, this script in earlier times. And these are some, I don't know. I mean, if you follow my paleography, you see how everything fits Sinai. This hieroglyph, the man with the, I called it a Sinai hieroglyphs. It appears hundreds of times in Sinai because of some internal reasons, and it's very rare in Egypt. It appears only in Tel El Daba, but also not in big numbers, and in Sinai. So there are so many strings.
Sure.
And but Daniel may be right. If one day he will find this genuine place with all the important scribes, so, but at least I didn't cheat. I do a very scientific job.
So we have many, many more questions, but I would like to bring us a little bit closer to biology and physiology in the wrap-up. Yeah. And we know that you're interested in understanding whether there is a different region of the brain that reacts to the reading and the composing of hieroglyphs compared to the alphabet. Can you tell us about the latest in this area?
In this, really an institute like yours, or such an institute can come in and help us, because for that you have to do experiments. You have to do experiments on readers of Egyptian and see what areas in the brains are lighting up, and you have to compare it to the processes that are daily done now in Mary of people reading, reading in the brain, the famous book of the Hain, and they are checking and they tell you everything. This is in here and that. Now, my problem always when I came to scientists and said, guys, let's do this experiment. We take students and say, no, but they're not native speakers. Yes, please. He's allowed?
He's allowed because he always breaks the rules. We can write the rules 20 times. Come closer, show yourself. Christoph Bock. We also have some.
I'm wondering what could be learned from this syllable alphabets of Eastern Asia, because there we have the kanji of Japan, the Chinese characters, etc., and they were simplified at least 3 times, probably many more times, into the Korean alphabet, the 2 Japanese alphabets, and there you have native speakers that can read, especially in Japan. You can write pretty much everything in kanji, but you can also write pretty much everything in the syllable alphabets. Couldn't you do in a much linear setup there? This type of study?
Thank you very, very much for this question. I hang on studies on Chinese and Japanese, because there you can, and especially in this. Thanks, especially.
The régisseur, c'est régisseur. It's important.
Especially in these languages, they have, and scripts actually, there were some neurological researches. And these neurological researches show differences between exactly what you expected. And moreover, all this story of classifiers in this complex script, these pictures that are only pictures and just tell you to what category the word belongs, is also very much brain working related. These are priming systems that are sitting in the script itself. So, but if you take the Japanese, they are alive. You see, I cannot take the mummies, and the scholars are somehow afraid to take real, let's say, students of Egyptian or anything like that to see how the brain is functioning. Scientifically, it may not be valid. If you know a way to help me.
You need to be here because actually you're not seen in the camera. So we need to stop your question because we will finish now. And we will finish with, which I think is the most poetic question, which is, what if, a student of ours, Martin Jäger, asked, what if when you speak to the gods, you write in stone, but when you speak of love, you write in the sand? So the question is, do we only think that they were writing to Baal because it's written in stone, but perhaps there was much more communication going on in some less durable material?
This we cannot know really. It's always an option, and I would love them to write also love letters, but this didn't remain. We can work only with what we have, and what we have is, if you want, sort of love. They really love, they use the word, the same word that we use now for love, for the love of the goddess. This is why I said before, it's maybe an attachment that we cannot really understand. But as a rule, I never talk on what I don't have.
So the students for the part will fake some letters in ancient Canaanite to their lovers. Dear Orly, on behalf of the 250 or people online, we apologize again to everybody for the technical hiccup. We were trying to make a hybrid solution here. I hope that nevertheless you managed to follow, and I know that you did, most of you did, the beautiful thoughts of Orly, and I would like you to express in some sort of way. Maybe you can turn on your cameras, or you can.
Giulio,
okay, whatever. We can make a round of applause, and we will put our effort to represent everybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. Thank you for your great patience to stay with us for this.
And we will keep the questions, and we will send them to you. So if you want some that you may be inspiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Giulio. Thank you again for giving me this great opportunity to in this beautiful place, in very important institute, to put the alphabet in a different light, which I never.
Yeah, we wanted to. When we exercise, we wanted to use this M for.
Yeah, this is the proof.
For the waves in the sea, but somehow we
very close to the approximative.
Absolutely.
Okay, bye everybody. It was a big pleasure being here.
I think we never had such a diverse group of people, and it's fantastic. It's really nice to have this.
Thank you for this great opportunity, and thank you everybody there for your patience and for your willing to stay with us. Bye bye.